Everybody, tomorrow's gonna be John Solo. Should be a lot of fun. Then we're gonna have Big News Wednesday when the big dumb bill might actually pass. So come, we're gonna talk about it as it happens. And then Brett's gonna be here for Thursday. So should be a lot of fun. I hope to see you then. For now, stay safe out there. Stay sane out there. I'll see you soon.
Welcome. It's indisputable. I'm your host, Rashad Richey. Good to be with you. We have a lot on the agenda today, breaking down news of the day. We have none other than a Rebel HQ contributor, all-star, fascinating human being, comedian, PhD candidate, Elliot Morgan. Is on the program. Look forward to his brilliance. Top story of the day. Hell of a thing. Man calls a black man a peasant and feels unsafe with black security. Here it is.
Go ahead. Say that again, sir. I didn't hear you. Can you repeat that?
Because you called him a peasant and...
Yeah, I want you to repeat all what you just said. I didn't hear you.
This is a federal building.
No. Say what you said before that.
You touched me. I told you don't touch me.
Right.
Right?
Okay, but after that,
right?
What else you say?
Don't touch me.
What else did you say, though?
At your age, how old are you and how old am I? Look how old you are. You have gray hairs. Don't touch people.
Yeah.
Don't touch people.
Okay, so sir, since you don't want to be physically touched, let's not verbally touch. I understand. So you conduct your business and your work right here and leave him alone verbally.
So call the police because right now I'm being
don't
up
need
by
the
all
police.
the Yeah, we do.
No,
we
we
need the
don't.
police because he's touching me.
Okay, so if you want the police, you call the police.
Okay, get out of my face.
I'm not
Why are you in my
Because
face?
you're causing a disturbance. You're causing a disturbance. Yes. I need like what?
Okay, hell of a thing, isn't it? So he calls the man a peasant, allegedly, calls the security guard a peasant. When your racism has to find a terminology from 1811 in order to be effective in this era, you obviously are, well, a learned racist. That's my opinion. And also, just to note, peasants were the backbone of society. The vast majority of the population, they were laborers, typically worked in agriculture and building. Just for keeping note. There's more.
There's a gentleman out here
Yeah, he's going too far.
and he's trying to report something and make the situation because they're all the security black as well, and then so I don't feel safe.
Oh, wow, he just said black.
I'm the minority, and I don't feel safe. I really don't.
He really said that.
Security? Yeah, security is not different.
Yeah. He don't like the security.
I'd like for this gentleman to be distanced from me, please. I'd really like to just be left alone because I'm trying to conduct work. Security's not doing anything, and I feel violated.
Security is here already.
He's saying that security.
I have an appointment,
We're
so
verbally telling him to stop. Like, stop verbally. If you want somebody to leave you alone, then you should verbally
you're
just be
mad
quiet.
because I was telling
No
you guys
one's
to calm
angry but you.
down. You're upset.
I'm not
You're-
upset. I'm doing my
You're
job.
putting yourself into it.
I'm doing my
and
job.
telling
I'm
me what
supposed to.
You know what?
I'm doing my job, sir.
I don't appreciate this whatsoever. I need to go in
You know.
somewhere else where I can be left alone to do my work because, yeah, and he is a peasant.
Now, obviously, I could have put this individual on our Wish a Karen Wood segment, but I ran out of room. Put him up full mass. Let's get into it. So according to this individual, the security is a peasant, the black male security guard, according to the allegation. Also, when he calls 911 to complain, he spins a narrative that seems, well, quite sensational. So according to Atlanta Black Star, a viral video shows the moment a white male called 911 to complain about an interaction with a black male and to security guards while stating that he felt unsafe because the guards were black and he was the minority in the situation. Understand his context. The guards are black, which means in the overall situation, he's the minority. And because of the fact that he's simply in the minority for a brief period of time, he feels unsafe. I'm taking you somewhere with this. The 3-minute video posted on TikTok by Robert Settle 7 begins by showing a man standing at a table in a federal building completing some paperwork. The security guards are federally certified. There's more. In case you couldn't hear the words being exchanged, the person recording asked him to recall the moment he called him a peasant. And the white male begins complaining that he touched him. Quote, at your age, how old are you? How old am I? Look how old you are. You have gray hairs. Don't touch people. Don't touch people. The man emphatically states. At that point, a black female security guard intervenes to de-escalate, which she is trained to do, de-escalate the situation. When the complaining man demands she call the police, quote, "We need the police because he touched me," the man tells her. When she says he can call the police, he tells her, quote, "Get out of my face. Why are you in my face?" End quote. Response, "I'm not in your face," the guard says, as she's standing several feet away from his face. Adding, quote, "You're causing a disturbance," end quote. At that point, the white male walks to a desk that has a phone, and appears to call the police. Did he ask to use the phone? Does he have rights to the phone? Maybe it's a privilege to use the phone. So he takes the privilege, he utilizes the phone. He then calls 911. He proceeds to tell 911 about the confrontation. Quote, "All the security is black as well, so I don't feel safe. I'm in the minority and I don't feel safe," the man says on the phone. After another guard shows up, the female guard explains to her colleague that the man verbally assaulted the black male and called him a peasant. The man finally walks away from the scene, leaving some final words for the group. Quote, "I need to go somewhere else where I can be left alone, do my work. Yeah, and he is a peasant." End quote. Put him back up. Full mask. Sir, somebody knows you. I'm sure somebody loves you. This is a great opportunity for somebody in your family to do an intervention. Not only do you insult individuals you just met, call them peasants, you then insult the entire staff who would have attempted to protect you if said, as you call them, black peasant would have whooped your ass. They would have been the ones to actually intervene and protect you. I don't know if you thought this plan out thoroughly, sir. All right, dear brother, what are your thoughts?
Oh my goodness. Well, first off, thank you for having me, Dr. Ritchie. And yeah, I mean, it seems like the white guys aren't doing so well at the moment. Clearly, this guy is just incredibly stressed. I mean, can you even imagine feeling so unsafe as to be surrounded by people who are literally security guards? I was trying to keep track, and I think, let's see here, we have racism, ageism, classism, which you rightly pointed out. We have gaslighting, deflecting, and then self-victimization. I mean, this guy, I don't know if he's been rehearsing, but like, I don't even know how you would do that level of a performance. It's incredibly nuanced. And I think it takes a certain level of delusion to kind of get to that point. It's also frustrating to watch because I think we're living in an era right now where everything is filmed on social media and everything is potentially going to go viral. And this guy, I think, is trying to kind of twist that a little bit and go like, well, actually, he's the one making a scene. He's the one causing all the problems right now. But he still does that thing at the end where he walks away and tries to have that last moment, except like it doesn't work. It just falls flat. And it also just reinstates how much he is deluded and how much you can tell just by how little the guy says. When people talk like that, you can find out very quickly kind of where they stand and what they think about certain groups of people. And it's very depressing.
Man, you make some great points, compelling. I made a mistake here. This should have been a Karen. Yeah. All right. Okay. We'll bring you updates if an update comes. We have a senator and racism, Islamophobic rant against Mr. Mamdani. Here it is.
The caller is exactly the New York constituents that I've spoken to that are alarmed. They are alarmed by past public statements. They are alarmed by past positions, particularly references to global jihad. This is a very serious issue because people that glorify the slaughter of Jews create fear in our communities. The global intifada is a statement that means destroy Israel and kill all the Jews. So these are the kinds of things that if Mr. Mamdani is elected our mayor, we'll need to assure all New Yorkers that he will protect all Jews and protect houses of worship and protect funding for not-for-profits that meet the needs of these communities. Those are the things he'll have to do as our mayor.
He would certainly say that he has committed to protecting all Jews in New York as mayor of New York. Do you dispute? Do you doubt that?
Well, one of the issues I did talk to him yesterday was exactly this issue, and he has agreed to work with me on this and to protect all residents.
I just feel compelled to say we can find no evidence that he has supported Hamas or has supported violent jihad, as that caller was asserting. Can you?
Again, Brian, I don't have all the data and information, and I've never sat down with Mr. Mamdani. So I've asked to have that meeting. I'm going to have that meeting.
You're a damn fool, madam. Put it up for a mass. So this senator, who's supposed to be, should be, by rank and title, it would be helpful to be a responsible human being. The good senator here has decided to commit what, in my opinion, equates to slander. Due to the fact that it was a published interview, it then becomes libel. But because she's a public official and Mr. Mamdani is also, likely the rules, normative rules won't apply. But I want to state it for the record. So during this radio interview, this New York Democratic senator, whom has fallen from such grace, appeared to suggest that this fearless light worker, light means you bring information, this fearless light worker named Mamdani has somehow condoned, you got to laugh not to cry, condoned a global jihad in his early 30s. He's already declaring a global jihad. If you recall, it was Mr. Mamdani who said in the debate that he would actually not travel to Israel to meet Jews in Israel. He would travel to Jewish folk in New York because he happens to be their mayor, if elected mayor of the city. To me, that speaks of dedication to the Jewish population. But I'm also thankful that he cares about the black population, the brown population, the white population, the LGBTQIA and non-LGBTQIA population, because he said he cares for all New Yorkers. Wasn't that the deal? All right, put him back up. So at this point, the dear brother won the New York City's Democratic Mayoral primary Tuesday. We covered it. A senator appeared Thursday. Caller named Gabe dialed into the show on that Thursday show to ask the senator about, quote, I want you to know the words now. This is what sparked it. Quote, the threats facing the Jewish community. And she went into a tirade about she's a Democratic U.S. It's a damn shame. She should have stopped the call. Obviously, it should not have moved forward when the person decided to frame it in the context of this young, newly elected individual who won the primary. She could have said there is no evidence that Mr. Mamdani poses any threat to the Jewish community. That would have been fair, that would have been accurate and responsible. To the contrary, this Democratic senator went on this tirade. The Muslim State Assembly member spoke often throughout his primary campaign about the threat of rising anti-Semitism and his desire to be mayor of all New Yorkers. That was simple and clear. He was endorsed by many Jewish leaders, including the highest ranking Jewish official in New York. That's going to be your comptroller. That's Brad Lander. Okay, Brad Lander is the highest ranking elected Jewish individual in New York. But the senator didn't do that. And the caller, Gabe, went on, quote, there was a bill that I was reading about that unfortunately he wants to target synagogues and Jewish institutions which donate to nonprofits, which are medical institutions like United Hatzalah and Magen David Adam, which is like the Jewish Red Cross, end quote. Gabe continued, quote, How do we make sure that Jewish institutions are protected from his plans to punish and fine our institutions, which fundraise the medical nonprofits, which do work both here in the United States and in Israel and other countries in the world? And also, how can we hold Mr. Mamdani accountable for his glorifying association of Hamas and other terror bombings in the Intifada in 1990s, where over 1,000 Jewish Israelis were killed to his revisionist Holocaust knowledge? The Warsaw Ghetto uprising, where Jews were mass exterminated and faced threats. He compared when Jews were killed to when Jews fought back against Nazis. It's quite despicable, I'm sorry, end quote. All right, so at this point, it was clear to me this was one of those setup calls, okay? This call was for play. Now, during an interview with the House Minority Leader, also echoed a similar sentiment. This is called being on message. Here it is.
Globalizing the Intifada, by way of example, is not an acceptable phrase, and he's going to have to clarify his position on that as he moves forward. With respect to the Jewish communities that I represent, I think our nominee is going to have to convince folks that he is prepared to aggressively address the rise in anti-Semitism in the city of New York, which has been an unacceptable development. And any mayor, whether you're a Democratic mayor, Republican mayor, an independent mayor, has got to commit to the safety and well-being of all of the people of the city of New York.
Once again, another one falling from grace. Dear brother, you know, I say this because I love you, and I hope to have a conversation with you directly again one day. You just got elected and won the hearts, the minds, and the conscious respect of voters in New York City. Let's start there. He won the hearts and minds of the same individuals who support you all. That should say something, number one. Number two, people can actually read between your BS. It's not that you care about true anti-Semitism, which does exist. It's that somehow when a college student or college students or professors decide to speak up for human rights, that they are then deemed to be anti-Semitic. When somebody dares to speak against the Israeli industrial military complex, or Bibi Netanyahu, that somehow they are adverse to Israel. However, Israelis have marched, protested, and object not only to the war or wars, but also to the treatment of the Palestinians and to Netanyahu being their leader. Would you suggest that somehow the Israelis are anti-Semitic? This is what they're tired of, sir, and this is what they're seeing through. Predictably, Republicans jumped on the bandwagon, on the hate train as well. Put it up, Tennessee. When you start agreeing with your historic oppressor, you need to look in the mirror. Republicans jumped on the hate train as well. Tennessee Representative Andy Ogles posted this. Called the man Little Muhammad, by the way. Okay, that is supposed. He's dumb enough to think that's an insult. So he calls him Little Muhammad. Is an anti-Semitic, socialist, communist who will destroy the great city of New York. He needs to be deported. Deported. He just won the Democratic primary. He needs to be deported, according to this senator. According to this representative, which is why I am calling for him to be subject to denaturalization proceedings. What? He wants to denaturalize a naturalized United States citizen. Put it up. He would also double down with this post. Bye-bye, Little Muhammad. The representative says. If you lied on your N-400 naturalization forms, you're going home. Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene posted an image. There you go. This hits hard, she says. I was wondering when the real Marjorie Taylor Greene to come back. Okay. Let's go to the most racist among them all, Laura Loomer. I know that's debatable. She's currently the president's side piece. Laura Loomer posted on X, quote, we need our Republican leaders to speak out about the threat of Muslim immigrants running for office. Running for office? This thing has really went from illegal to really effing illegal. So now they can't run for office. They're not fit to run for office because they happen to be what? Well, according to Laura Loomer, they happen to be Muslim. This is echoed from the same sentiment of Donald Trump I, who wanted to ban all what? Muslim nations from coming into the United States of America. As I've said before, and I say again, if you believe that this is about immigration, if you believe this is about undocumented workers or individuals overstaying their visa, if you believe it is about that, you're being foolish. You're lying to yourself. This is about a proxy to power, and that proxy is you. That proxy is you. They will say immigrant, but they mean you. They will say undocumented, but they mean you. It's a power grab. This is the new paradigm that they are attempting to bring into this country, not by force only, but also riding on the bigotry and the hatred that still resides in the heart of individuals who refuse to progress beyond their current level of consciousness. Don't let this man do this. All right, dear brother, thoughts?
I think the reaction that we're seeing right now from a lot of the Democratic Party to Mamdani winning, it really perfectly encapsulates why so many people are fed up with the Democratic Party, as well as why they continue to lose these elections. You have Jeffries out there worrying about acceptable phrasing, and then you have Mamdani who's worried about acceptable rent payments and acceptable public transportation systems and things that actually materially benefit people's lives. And rather than focus on that and rather than laud him and celebrate him, the Democrats turn around and just exhibit this level of Islamophobia that I don't know I've seen since right after 9/11. I mean, it is like it reminds me of, it's as if the Democratic Party fell into a cryogenic chamber and they just de-thawed. And all of a sudden you have this very charismatic individual that is the new target. And I don't think it works. I think that what it's really doing is revealing to people the stark contrast within the Democratic Party and the factions that are actually there to help people and the factions that are there to maintain power. And I think it's becoming crystal clear what camp certain elected officials fall into. I think that this ultimately is going to be about Riz versus racism. And I think that Mamdani is full up on Riz. I think that when you have him side by side in these graphics and he just looks like a charming, likable, kind person, I think that's going to go a long way in dispelling a lot of the fear mongering that they're very desperately trying to do.
Yeah, and we know it's not just because he's Muslim for Democrats. Democrats have supported Muslims before, but Mr. Mamdani represents something else. He represents a paradigm shift in what kind of money he would take, what he's willing to say and do to hold other elected officials accountable, how he doesn't engage in direct play colleagueship just because you happen to be a Democrat or happen to be on the left. He represents that, and that is what they're afraid of. Put up Nancy Mace. Here's what Nancy Mace had to say. And once again, we're back to old school, fundamental racism. This is what Nancy Mace put up. After 9/11, we said, never forget. I think we sadly have forgotten. Oh. So now he's responsible for that as well. Do y'all have any Muslim friends? Maybe? Okay. All right. So Andrew Wong, head of the pro-Trump Political Action Committee, said this on CNN.
New Yorkers like myself move to to Florida during the COVID years, and we're going to have a second wave, and we've got plenty of land and real estate down there. You're going to see an exodus if Zohran gets in. And we're already being promised that, not just because of high cost of living, but because of the Jewish base here. They're scared. And I'm hearing from, various people here in New York, and they're concerned about their safety living here with a Muslim mayor, and that's the problem.
Highly probable.
Hold on.
They shouldn't.
Because of hold on. We talked about this yesterday, and since you brought it up, might as well bring it up again. The idea that because he is Muslim, he is a threat to Jewish New Yorkers, is that really what you're saying?
No, it's because of his anti-Israel rhetoric that he's been putting out.
But what does that have to do with him being Muslim? I think this is where things, you can go after his policies, but what does that have to do with his faith?
You see the de-evolution right in front of you, where the message from the Trump camp sounds very similar as the message from the Democratic camp about this one particular highly charismatic, significantly integral young candidate is receiving. Where everything de-evolves into one dynamic, and it happens to be everything but the content of your character, as King taught us. Everything is about his origin, his religion. Not even about his age, ironically. Not about his ideas. However, several Muslim elected officials, thank God, members of Congress, Representative Rashida Tlaib, Representative Omar, Representative Carson, and our dear sister Latifah. It's just amazing they have to do this. You have to understand they had to call out both parties. So they called out both parties, called out colleagues from both parties for, quote, racist smears. Understand what they're saying. They're saying Democrats are racist. We already know Republicans are racist. We already know that. They're saying our Democratic colleagues are racist too. Quote, the vile, anti-Muslim, and racist smears from our colleagues on both sides of the aisle attacking Mamdani cannot be met with silence. These hateful, Islamophobic, and racist tropes have become so entrenched and normalized in our politics. We know these attacks all too well. At a time of increased violence against elected officials, we cannot allow the attacks on Mamdani to continue. They directly contribute to the ongoing dehumanization of violence against Muslim Americans. We unequivocally reject the normalization of anti-Muslim hate and fear-mongering. We call on elected leaders across our country to speak out. Meanwhile, put them up. Has-beens. Andrew Cuomo will not drop out of the New York City mayoral race. That leaves in place contingency plans he had established for the Democratic primary to challenge Mamdani and incumbent mayor Eric Adams in November. And Eric Adams is purchased, bought, sold, publicly traded, and belongs to the Trump administration because Trump decided to turn the other way and have his Justice Department basically dismiss his corruption charges, also that he can have a New York mayor in his pocket. Speaking of Adams, the New York Times posted, they reported on Thursday that the New York City business owners, they met with incumbent mayor Eric Adams to hatch a plot to stop the rise of Mamdani. It's great, isn't it? The plan seemed to revolve around supporting Adams' bid for mayor as an independent. Adams was previously elected as a Democrat, but has drifted away from the mainstream party platform. In recent years, several business owners expressed concern about Mamdani's policy platform, especially his tax policies and how they can impact their businesses going forward. But he won the Democratic primary because no matter how much money you have or no matter what special interest group you're a part of, when you go on that ballot, your vote is one. It's one. So with all of your money and your machine, that ballot is a great equalizer. One. So who are they actually fighting? Not Mr. Mamdani. Who are they fighting? They're fighting you. Who are they standing up for? They're standing up for the special interest groups. They're standing up for the business owners. They're standing up for the individuals that can fund their campaigns. They're standing up for the folk that have bought and paid for them decades in the United States of America. That's what they're standing up for. Whitney Tilson, former hedge fund manager, told the Times that Mamdani is a, quote, Trojan horse who is, quote, totally unqualified to be mayor of one of the world's largest, most complex cities. Scott Resch, who owns multiple rental properties in the city, said he would back Adams in the general election because Mamdani doesn't represent New York City. Quote, you want to have leadership that speaks to what New York is? He told the outlet. It's the capital of capitalism. And if he does win the general election, he'll deal with opposition from Trump. Here it is.
He's a communist. I think it's very bad for New York. I don't know that he's going to get in. It's inconceivable that but he's a communist and he's a pure communist. I think he admits it, but I can't imagine it. But let's say this. If he does get in, I'm going to be president, then he's going to have to do the right thing or they're not getting any money. He's got to do the right thing. It's shocking that I would have assumed that I used to say we will never have a socialist in this country. No, but we'll have a communist. I mean, he's a communist and going to be mayor of New York.
Trump, ironically, I actually get your point on that one. There was a time when I said I would never tell my daughter that we elected a president with over 30 felony convictions. All right. Dear brother, thoughts?
My goodness. I think just if you go by the language that these folks are using, it is so clear how terrified they are of Mamdani winning and how emblematic he is of a changing tide. Like we're looking at the rise of Mamdani, which reminds me of the rise of Skywalker, not my favorite Star Wars movie, but I would watch this one. He's a Trojan horse. The Statue of Liberty covered up. I mean, these are pieces of language and images that are designed to stoke as much fear as possible. But it just seems cartoonish to me. Maybe I'm like too optimistic here. I don't know, but it feels so cartoonish the way that they are attempting to paint this man when all he's trying to do is better people's lives. And I do believe, as you said, people will see through it. Yeah. Whether or not the Democratic Party does, it remains to be seen. We know the Republican Party won't, obviously, but
right. Yeah, it is interesting. And what I love about this is that they don't realize he's transmuting all of their negative energy into a benefit for himself. And that's the reason as they continue to throw their stones and tell their lies, he rises in the polls. All right, we'll bring you updates as it comes. Okay, here we go. We got some feckless leadership trying to grow a backbone again. GOP, they're saying, well, we got to be against this new Trump big, beautiful BS. Here it is.
I couldn't care less if he's upset. I'm concerned about my children, my grandchildren, and the fact that we are stealing from them. We are stealing from our children and grandchildren. $37 trillion in debt, and we're going to add to it as Republicans? That is unacceptable. And that's why there's no way I'm going to vote for this bill in its current form.
Y'all did it last time. All right, put him up. She's like, we were going to stop it. This is it. Damn it, Trump, you're going too far. Okay? Members of the GOP are coming out against Trump. The big, beautiful bill. We covered this. We covered the whole bill. The bill is a disaster. It's the worst. I told you all that bill would make the most liberal progressive blush. Like, why are we spending that much money? Why? And that is the kind of bill it is. Because Trump don't give a damn about his own businesses that are funded by private investors is not his money. He definitely doesn't care about your money, okay? Now, the Senate's big, beautiful bill would add $3.3 trillion. That's a T, y'all. $3.3 trillion in new debt, according to the CBO. The Senate reconciliation package being debated this weekend would add nearly $3.3 trillion in budget deficits over the next 10 years, according to a new estimate by the Congressional Budget Office, CBO. The Senate's version would add far more debt than the $2.8 trillion in estimated deficits in the version the House passed in late May. The changes to Medicaid and the Affordable Care Act in the Senate's version of the bill would also result in 12 million more uninsured people by 2034, CBO estimate. The House passed version would lead to 10.8 million more people without insurance per CBO. Republican Senator Tom Tillis, North Carolina, would not run for re-election when his term is up, he announced Sunday, hours after he voted against advancing President Donald Trump's tax bill, drew the president's anger. Quote, as many of my colleagues have noticed over the last year, and at times even joked about, I haven't exactly been excited about running for another term, Tillis said in a statement. Quote, that is true, since the choices between spending another 6 years navigating the political theater, partisan gridlock in Washington, or spending that time with the love of my life, Susan, our 2 children, 3 beautiful grandchildren, and the rest of our extended family back home, he said. Quote, it's not a hard choice. I will not be seeking re-election, he continued. Tillis' announcement is likely to spur a competitive and costly election in the key battleground where Trump had already said he would explore supporting a primary challenger to the 2-term senator. CNN data guru warns Republicans of big, beautiful election night. For Dems, here it is.
If the House GOP is under any illusion
All right, welcome back. Apologies, we had a technical issue, but the amazing production and engineering team that just got it resolved. Very thankful. All right, got something for you. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish Karen would.
You want to call the police on them for having a barbecue on a Sunday.
I feel free! Back off!
I'm going to tell them there's an African-American man threatening my life.
I don't care.
Oh.
Why you throw the check? Why you throw the check? Why you throw the check?
That ain't
Why
fair,
you
bro.
$4 for one more Friday?
Yep. Put it up full mass. See, this is what we're talking about right here. This is what we're trying to stop. This is why we do this. We're trying to bring awareness that instant karma is a real thing. And many times, Karens, male Karens included, will face consequence. This is in a pizzeria. According to the Post, the male Karen gets instant karma after causing a scene at this pizzeria. And we are looking for more information, but here's the dynamic. Here's the thing you should always try to hold in your auric field. It's not a good idea to be rude, aggressive, or even violent to those who are preparing your food. Okay? You shouldn't do it. Shouldn't happen. Now, there are consequences and repercussions outside of what you've just seen. Okay? All right, we don't have to get into all those on the show, but it's not a good idea. Elliot?
You know, I don't know how you can be in a bad mood when you're inside a pizzeria, so I don't know what's going on with this gentleman on some kind of deep level. But I mean, the only thing that would have possibly made it scarier is if he'd been surrounded by black security guards or something. I mean, I can't even imagine, as we were talking about earlier, that would be pretty horrible. I don't know that I've heard a pizza slap that was that satisfying since an episode of the Looney Tunes. So I'm glad to see that's coming back. My favorite part of that video, I think, is when the person filming it really quickly turns to the worker who's handing her the pizza and just goes, "Oh, could you just cut it in squares real quick for me?" Because whatever was going on isn't quite as important as making sure your pizza is sliced how you want it to be. So some people in that pizzeria had their priorities straight.
That is correct, and it was good to see that. All right, lets me know the world is still normal. Okay, here we go. United Airlines again in the news for what? Racism. Let's put it up full mass. United Airlines logo here. We've covered them multiple times. We've even had guests on the program who went viral because of airline discrimination. Amir Brown, who worked at United Airlines, is suing the company for racism and harassment that was covered up in the workplace, according to the allegation. His white supervisor, known as, I'm not making this up, Fat Eddie. That's the name. That's what's in the complaint, Fat Eddie. So I have to refer to him as Fat Eddie. Fat Eddie ordered him to, quote, go fetch a noose. And investigations were not conducted when another employee was fired for the use of the N-word. That's a no-no. Former black employee for United Airlines at its Denver International Airport hub alleges in a new lawsuit that numerous cases of racism and harassment in the workplace were covered up, never addressed. Amir Brown, 31, recalled one such incident when a white supervisor known as Fast Eddie here, ordered another black worker to go fetch a noose. Fast Eddie was eventually fired. The lawsuit obtained by Atlanta Black Star states, but there was no investigation into the use of the racist trope or of another employee who was terminated after yelling, not saying, not repeating, but yelling the N-word in the terminal break room. In his complaint, Brown said that it was typical of how problems were handled by United. Brown is not the first non-white employee to report discriminatory behavior at the airline's Denver hub. In January, a Mongolian-born employee received $99,000 after he endured constant racial slurs and was physically assaulted on the job. That's illegal. You cannot physically assault anyone, anywhere, at any time, period, legally. All right. So Brown began working at the airline around March 2017. He was promoted twice, and according to his suit, was consistently recognized for performance or high performance. He said he worked between 70 and 100 hours a week. Soon after transferring from Newark to Denver, Brown noted a, quote, work environment and culture that enabled racism towards Black employees, end quote, the complaint alleges. Instead of properly reporting the conduct to supervisors and firing those engaging in unlawful and disrespectful behavior, the airlines knowingly allowed the conduct to continue, and by not properly investigating such behavior, enabled it to occur according to the allegation. The harassment was frequent and notorious in nature, according to the suit. Brown, part of the aircraft move team that repositioned aircraft around the Denver tarmac, claims his colleagues wouldn't even acknowledge him or say hello. White members of the team, quote, refused to partner with him on assignments, end quote, a potential safety hazard. Brown, one of the two people of color on the team, said his supervisors were aware of his segregation and exclusion, but did not do anything to remedy it. Brown felt increasingly isolated and distressed and believed his colleagues were trying to make working conditions so bad that he would quit. He started spending his break time in the locker room, the suit explains. But a white employee told management he was, quote, uncomfortable with having a Black man sit near his locker. Quote, not just having an employee near their locker, they specified Black man near their locker. From there, Brown found himself targeted by white colleagues in various other ways, being berated and sworn at on the airfield, getting criticized on the radio, and being set up to fail by way of bogus violations for minuscule offenses, such as not being in the break room when the supervisor went looking for him. That did not result in any penalties for non-Black workers who committed similar infractions, and according to the complaint. So obviously, if true, the allegations are quite detailed and horrendous. Most companies have a lot of leeway. They have a lot of leeway. If an employee engages in racism and they do their due diligence to investigate and to properly deal with that employee, and they vetted the employee where there's not a negligent hire issue, it limits the liability of said company legally. It limits their civil liability. But when there's consistent, aggressive, continuous racism or harassment, when it creates an unsafe work environment, when these things can be maintained and established for the record, then the company has significant liability and could also face punitive or punishment. Punitive damages can be rewarded by the jury. So by their failure to follow policy and protocol, they have likely created even a worse nightmare. This story is developing. We'll bring you updates as it comes. Dear brother, thoughts?
What stuck out the most to me here, Dr. Ritchie, is yes, there's the offensiveness and the racism. And I mean, clearly it seems like a widespread problem over at United. But beyond that, this passivity, the culture where you allow this stuff to happen. And I think it goes back to high school and being in the locker room and wanting to seem cool and not wanting to cause a fuss. And it's really, it's kind of disgusting. I mean, I think that like, you say what you will about the horribly racist environment that this person was subjected to. The fact that there is a culture both at United as well as abroad where bringing this to people's attention is something that is seen as a slight against yourself is that is a systemic and cultural issue that I think this issue brings to light.
That's right. And a lot of times you will find the reason why the supervisors didn't do anything is because they are connected to the culture of racism, even if they're not actively engaged in overt racism. All right, we'll bring you updates as it comes. We got more on the other side. Indisputable. Stick and stay.
At TYT, our mission is to boldly pursue truth, challenge the establishment, and drive positive change. At a time when corporate capture of our media, our government, and our politics is nearly absolute, everyday working people need a champion to fight for them and to push back against the powerful interests that threaten our democracy itself. At TYT, we're proudly progressive and call out corruption and duplicity wherever we see it, from Republicans, Democrats, or anyone else. And unlike mainstream news media outlets, we're not beholden to corporate advertisers, to defense contractors, to Wall Street, or to big pharma. We only have to answer to our audience, and for nearly 2 decades, we've accomplished that by delivering honest, timely, and insightful perspectives on the day's news without fear or favor or concern for whose toes we might step on or which powerful elites we might offend. And while we're super serious about the news, we also manage to do it in a way that is fun and lighthearted. We can do this together and serve our audience, and yes, have fun doing it.
You are the media revolution. You are much needed.
TYT, TYT.
The place is like 95% TYT on.
Favorite channel, we're getting that message out.
Frank and the Young Turks do an extraordinarily good job.
No matter what mainstream media says, you have to listen to the Young Turks.
The people who support us on the internet, that's what gives us strength. That's what allows anyone who was in there who was undecided to think one side seems to be winning. They seem to have a bigger army. There might be a reason for that. So thank you guys.
All right, welcome back. Always good to be with you. We got a lot of comments. I will read as many as I can. Very thankful for everyone. Nasser Science says, I wish the corporatist Dems went after the racist Republicans as hard as they go after progressive Dem. That part. Yep. Embedded Dude says, good luck in your next career. Kirsten, talking about the good senator who decided to just start lying. I don't know what else to call it. Dragons don't know I'm not real bacon. How are you going to call someone peasant? How are you going to call someone peasant in shorts and flip-flops? Shaking my head, at least dress the part. That's right. Dress the part of a nobleman if you're going to call somebody peasant, sir. Yeah. Miss World, Mamdani needs to stop doing interviews with establishment media, but he tears their ass up every time, so it's always unique to watch. I enjoy it. And, yep. Not today. We're going to bring it back. So Anomaly B says, good afternoon, all. I pray that everyone had a fantastic weekend. More importantly, I pray for a Karen double dose. Well, your prayers may be answered this week. You know, God may not come where you want him, but he'll be there right on time. All right? So just look out for this week. You may get that double dose. And Kimmy Koo, oh my God, I'm sick of the racist folks. Stay home. Christina Elise Brown, looking like Money Doc. Thank you. Do it for you. All right? And Busy Bee, starting with Karen's early today, aren't we? Yeah, that's right. First segment. Okay. Here we go. Trump administration says ICE could actually deport Abrego Garcia to a different country. Put it up full mass. This is an update to a story we brought you. We've been bringing it to you. Trump administration says ICE could actually deport Mr. Garcia to a country other than El Salvador if he's released from jail. So this is a reminder of the coverage. So in a months-long legal saga, Mr. Garcia was deported from Maryland to his native El Salvador in March, despite a prior court ruling that barred him from being sent to the Central American country. He was flown back to the United States earlier this month after a Maryland judge ordered his return, but promptly jailed on federal smuggling charges in Tennessee. A Tennessee judge then ordered him to be released pre-trial last weekend, but he will remain in jail until at least Friday. Now, obviously, they're playing games with this man's whole life, okay? There's more to this, but I want to remind everyone, when the major court ruling came out and said basically Trump administration, they had no right to do this, and the man needs to be escorted back to America. You had no right to deport him in the first place. The administration stance was, well, we don't have to do a damn thing. We don't have to do anything. And then another judge steps in, directly orders, so that the language is clear. You got to put him on plea. You got to bring him back. He gets brought back to only be arrested again, released, and here we are, because he will remain in jail until Friday, according to the latest report. So at a hearing in Maryland federal court on Thursday, Justice Department Attorney Jonathan Guyon said that once Mr. Garcia is released from detention, ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement, intends to begin removal proceedings to send him to a third country rather than El Salvador. Put him up full mask. Once again, still going back to Trump. As I say, this is what happens when you hire a game show host as your president. Country one, no. Country two, no. Third country, it may be behind door number 3. It's unfortunate that you have actual attorneys who went to school, specialized instruction, education, took an oath doing this. And so the prosecutor says, however, that there are no imminent plans to remove him from the U.S. and did not provide specifics of whether the administration would seek to deport him. That's probably a fake out. We'll see. Also, in Thursday's Maryland court proceedings, Mr. Garcia's attorneys requested that he be protected from another deportation and returned to the state. So U.S. District Judge Paul Azenis of Maryland scheduled a hearing for July 7th to review Garcia's arguments. The attorneys are making this argument. The judge will also review the government's motion to dismiss Garcia's civil lawsuit over his earlier deportation, which has played out in this same courtroom. Meanwhile, in Garcia's criminal court proceedings in Tennessee on Wednesday, U.S. Magistrate Judge Barbara Holm ordered that Mr. Garcia remain in custody at least until Friday, as lawyers debate whether the Justice Department can stop him from being deported after he is released from jail. Prosecutors argue that if Mr. Garcia is released and then arrested again on immigration grounds, the Justice Department would lose a, quote, meaningful opportunity to try this case because it could be deported. His lawyers called the concerns, quote, a possible self-inflicted injury due to the Department of Homeland Security's desire to deport him. Holmes ordered Mr. Garcia released last weekend. So Mr. Garcia is facing charges for his alleged role in a migrant smuggling conspiracy. He pleaded not guilty to those charges. He was returned to the U.S. in early June after the Salvadorian government was given a warrant for his arrest. If convicted, he would serve his sentence in the U.S. before potentially facing deportation again. But there's a 2019 court ruling, okay? A 2019 court ruling barred Mr. Garcia, who entered the U.S. legally around 2011, from being deported to El Salvador, specifically due to fear of persecution by his home country's gang. It's an asylum-like ruling, okay? Despite that ruling, he was detained in March and sent to El Salvador anyway, in what the government described as an administrative error. Well, that's why you're going to lose the lawsuit. Because when the government engages in an administrative error where it actually deprives the legal or statutory rights and constitutional rights, and like it or not, he's in the United States of America, he has both. When an administrative error causes these types of civil intrusions, the government pays up. That's how it works. All right, Elliot, thoughts?
I mean, these things, specifics and details, I don't think that specifics and details are exactly this administration's forte when it comes to this kind of thing. I think that it's incredibly sad to watch this kind of thing happen. And it's on both sides, but I would say predominantly on the right, where you watch an individual go from being a human being to a symbol, and they become something of a pawn. They become a way of showing other people and other groups how strong they can be, and how much they're going to protect our borders, and how much safer you're going to be. And it's not a real thing. It's all fantasy for these folks. And so I think when a lot of this legal stuff comes up, a lot of these like constitutional rights that people might have, for example, it falls on deaf ears, because there's two modes, I think, of thinking here. One side is going, hey, this isn't legal. You can't do this. You need to actually go through due process. And then you have another side going, we don't really care. We just want to use this to our benefit and make sure that it gets us points with our voters. And I think that kind of thing, again, can happen on both sides. But watching it happen in real time with real people is sad. And it seems to be kind of one of our nation's favorite pastimes.
Yeah, and you can't imagine that spending all of this manpower and all of these resources on a potential case, no, it's not legal to do, doesn't help the overall goal of MAGA, who wanted the worst sent back and the criminal sent. That's not happening. Trump ain't worried about that. He's trying to meet a quota. All right, we'll bring updates as they develop. All right, what if I told you that a man who saved a person from a shark attack is now facing deportation? Put a full mask. A man who rushed in, was an actual hero, decided to aid a girl who was bitten in Boca Grande, bitten by a shark, is now facing deportation. One of the men went into the water off Boca Grande to help after a 9-year-old girl was bitten this month by a shark. Luis Alvarez was arrested a few days later for driving without a license. He is now in Collier County Jail facing deportation. We have the details. 31 years of age, was stopped at about 1:30 a.m., June 14th, while driving on West Main Street without his headlights on. The Collier County Sheriff's Office arrest report says he was driving a gray SUV with a Rhode Island tag. When asked for his license, Alvarez called up a picture of his employment authorization card on his phone. He told the arresting officer in Spanish that he has been in the country for 2.5 years and never had a driver's license, the report stated. Alvarez was arrested for driving without a license and issued a warning for not having the headlights on. The arrest report says that Alvarez is from Nicaragua. Court records indicate he is being held in the U.S. in jail by U.S. ICE, Immigration and Customs Enforcement. He is scheduled to go before a judge on July 9th. Leah Lindell, put her up. So unfortunate, sustained severe injuries after she was bitten by a shark only a few feet off of the beach in Boca Grande. Lindell's hand was nearly severed, but fast action at the scene and an airlift to Tampa General Hospital allowed surgeons to reattach her hand. She is currently recovering. Renelle Lugo, who also helped during the rescue, said in an interview with Fox 4 News, which first reported the Alvarez arrest, that Alvarez is the one Alvarez went into the water and faced a shark to help Lindell's sister. Quote, he jumped in that area to bring her out when I was assisting Leah, said Lugo in the Fox 4 interview. Quote, he went deep underwater, not even caring about the shark. He went really deep. He probably faced the shark, end quote. Put him back up again. I'm gonna tell you why I choked up. You have to realize that he realizes he's not a documented individual in that traditional sense. He's working. He's not breaking law. But there's a Trump administration. If he gets caught up in having to answer questions to the authority, he could go to jail, he could be deported. The point is, none of that mattered to him. None of it mattered to him. What mattered to him is that he had an opportunity to save a young girl from being bitten by a shark, and he did it without regard to his personal safety or what repercussion could happen to him after that. That part. Wouldn't you rather have that guy in this nation? Wouldn't you rather have that guy as your neighbor, as your friend, your family? Put it up. Body cam footage. Body cam footage from Lee County Sheriff's Office. Deputy who responded to the call shows 3 men standing next to the water as Leah was being treated by EMS Alvarez through an interpreter. Told first responders it looked like about an 8-foot shark. He's cooperating. The experts later said it was possibly a bull shark, one of the most aggressive sharks in the Florida waters. Man faced one of the most aggressive sharks. Court records indicate Alvarez has no arrest history in Collier County. He was arrested on similar charges 4 times in Lee County dating back to December 2023. The man drives, he works, he has to get back and forth, real simple. He paid fines or had adjudication withheld by 3 different judges. In the most recent case, the judge issued a D6 suspension on June 23rd, meaning Alvarez had not paid his fine and was unable to apply for a license. But now, due to the insane policies of this administration, someone who would save your child, is being booted out of the country. To MAGA, is this what Trump promised you? To the Christian evangelicals who go to church on Sunday, Bible study on Wednesday. Wouldn't Jesus do something like this? All right. Dear brother, thoughts?
That level of bravery, I think, is pretty unfathomable. I mean, regardless of what side of the political aisle you're on, I think that kind of situation is one where it's really easy to think about what we would do in that situation. Yeah. But I am born and raised in Florida. I grew up going to the beaches. I have family over there. I've seen shark instances where, everyone their attention gets piqued immediately. Very rarely does someone immediately jump in and get to that level of bravery with just a snapshot without even thinking about it. And when you add to the fact, like you're saying, that he did so without regard, not just for his safety, but for his legal status, that speaks to a level of human that I can only aspire to be one day. And this, like you said, this is what the Trump administration was all about. They wanted to get these terrible criminals out and look at who it's targeting. I don't have the ICE data on me right now, but I recall it being something, at least in LA, I think it was 2/3 had no criminal record, but nationally it was way higher than that. And the ones who did have a criminal record, it was a criminal record along the lines of not having a driver's license, which is something that you cannot get as a result of your legal status. And so it's like a circular problem anyway. But it's like that's who they're getting. This isn't a one-off thing. The people that they're grabbing are people who don't have criminal records, and the criminal records they do have are very often just administrative. And so when you couple that with an adorable girl who got her life saved, it's kind of hard to have a leg to stand on, I think, when you're these, as you said, Christian evangelicals who preach love. It's like, well, how do you square that circle?
That's right. That's right. Well said. We'll bring you updates. If there's an update to bring on that story. We got more on the other side. Indisputable. Stick and stay.
At TYT, our mission is to boldly pursue truth, challenge the establishment, and drive positive change. At a time when corporate capture of our media, our government, and our politics is nearly absolute, everyday working people need a champion to fight for them and to push back against the powerful interests that threaten our democracy itself. At TYT, we're proudly progressive and call out corruption and duplicity wherever we see it, from Republicans, Democrats, or anyone else. And unlike mainstream news media outlets, we're not beholden to corporate advertisers, to defense contractors, to Wall Street, or to Big Pharma. We only have to answer to our audience, and for nearly 2 decades, we've accomplished that by delivering honest, timely, and insightful perspectives on the day's news without fear or favor or concern for whose toes we might step on or which powerful elites we might offend. And while we're super serious about the news, we also manage to do it in a way that is fun and lighthearted. We can do this together and serve our audience, and yes, have fun doing it.
You are the media revolution. You are much needed.
TYT! TYT!
The place is like 95% TYT on.
Favorite channel, we're getting that message out.
Tank and the Young Turks do an extraordinarily good job.
No matter what mainstream media says, you have to listen to the Young Turks.
The people who support us on the internet, that's what gives us strength. That's what allows anyone who was in there who was undecided to think one side seems to be winning, they seem to have a bigger army. There might be a reason for that. So thank you guys.
All right, welcome back. Always good to be with you. Got a lot of comments. We'll read as many as I can. Okay. Sassy Dragon. This is very sassy of Sassy Dragon. Let's keep the hero and deport Stephen Miller. We'd be a whole lot safer. Yeah. Ms. World, putting your life on the line to save another sounds very American to me, or what America should be, right? The nurture versus nature art. Absolutely. And Shade Dragon, ICE is wasting taxpayer dollars. Yeah, and running out of money as well. I think July, they will, end of July, they won't have any money. So, yep, old hippie, just think there are no reasonable people to make them leave that man alone. It's just Vegas. It takes a lot of guts to go after a shark to protect someone. Good on him. Does. Takes a lot of heart. All right. Well, here we go. So a school awards a student for a racist paper. Really racist paper. Not kind of racist. Okay? Now, what state? That's right. Florida. Put it full mask. Here we go. The University of Florida has suspended a law student who wrote that Jews should be, quote, abolished by any means. Now that's anti-Semitic. You look for anti-Semitic, that's anti-Semitic. Okay? Necessary and won an award from their professor for a paper they wrote arguing that the Constitution only applies to white people. Got an award. Says that the Constitution, I need you to understand this. So I took constitutional law as well. When you take constitutional law, you learn about, yes, the origin, but you also learn about the amendment process. You learn about the current context of the Constitution. Put it up. So the Constitution, if it only applies to white people, that would mean that none of us have rights, okay? So according to the New York Times, this is really interesting, Preston Damsky took a class last fall in originalism. This is the legal theory that the Constitution should be interpreted on its meaning when it was first adopted only. Wow. You remember when they said that there was a particular theory, they called it critical race theory, that's beside the point. But they said that theory is racist, that theory is the reason why America is going to hell. Critical race theory. But there's another theory called originalism theory that gets awards. It's taught at university colleges in Florida. The class was taught by, put them up, by a judge. Who's the judge appointed by? You got that one right too. Donald damn Trump. You're looking at Judge John L. Badalamenti. Despite many conservatives calling themselves originalists, that theory does not extend to the belief that only whites are granted rights, liberties, and protections under the Constitution. These ideas have only proliferated in recent years as the right wing has embraced this white nationalism, conspiracy theory, and exempt other folk from the Constitution, and extremist views on race issues, reproductive rights and voting rights, et cetera, have permeated. So basically what they've done, they've taken a concept out of context, kind of like what they do with every damn thing else. There's more. Damsky wrote a paper which argued, quote, "We the people should only be applied to white people and non-white people should not have voting rights." The judge awarded the student the, quote, book award for the paper. Then in March, after Damsky wrote anti-Semitic posts on social media, the university said, "Oh, you're going too far now," and suspended him and banned him from campus. You know what happened here? When he said that the Constitution should only apply to white people, what they thought at the university, this is just me speculating, that he meant in exclusion to black people. But when he said, no, I'm actually a thorough racist, that Jews are included, that's when he went too far. And they suspended him. Damsky gained his extremism reputation last fall when a paper he wrote for a different class was passed around among students and faculty. Fascinated with racism, obviously. The paper was similar to the paper he wrote in the other class, in which he again argued non-white people shouldn't have voting rights and should be given 10 years to move out of the country. Unfortunately, what this means is that enough officials were aware of the offensive work that this individual submitted, but this only became an issue when he received an award for said offensive racist work. Had there not been an award, he could have easily continued to publish this extremely offensive and non-research oriented work, and likely privately praised by members of the faculty and other students. You know, when you have, let's go ahead and put her up. When you have a leadership capacity at any university, you have an obligation to protect students from discrimination and also offensive language. This is part of the requirement for you to have your accreditation standard. University had a statement. So Merritt McAllister issued a statement regarding the paper. Quote, "The college isn't going to express a viewpoint or any particular student speech." This is what the interim dean said. "Our job as a community is to have dialogue and discussion and debate on these issues and let the marketplace of ideas grow out a particularly odious idea." This is your new non-DEI, critical race theory is evil, and white is right. on university campus rule. I guarantee you, if a black student would have made white people feel uncomfortable, because there are rules against that now in Florida. If a black student would have made white students feel uncomfortable, that would have been an issue that they would have dealt with. But when white students can make everybody other than feel uncomfortable, it's simply free speech. All right, Elliot, thoughts?
Well, Dr. Ritchie, I am actually a former student and graduated from the University of Florida. The last story we did was about a shark attack in Florida, so I feel like it's just getting pounded left and right over here. And the University of Florida that I went to was for science and not whatever they're doing over there in the law department right now. I think that if your research ends up leading you to the conclusion that non-white people don't deserve the right to vote, you should maybe go read some more, I think. And in fact, I think you might be doing research a little wrong. I think if your ethics are completely defined by how you can kind of wiggle in your racism, maybe take a step back. It is a level of racism, especially the anti-Semitism, where it boggles the mind. It is the kind of thing where I spend a lot of time defending Florida sometimes and go, hey, it's actually not all crazy. It's not all bad. But when something like this happens, I just go, all right, you know what? I give up, because clearly I can't keep up with all the Florida man stories and all the horrible instances of universities capitulating to the Trump administration and hiding behind them. And so at this point, I just go, all right, guys, go with God. So.
Yeah, that's about all you can say. And you're right. It's not a thesis. It's it's antithesis when you engage in research or even some level of commentary with the bias. You're not allowed the freedom of discovery when you do that. Authentic discovery that could transform. Dear brother, it was a great day having you on the program. Tell people how they can follow you, check out your great work.
Oh, well, thank you so much for having me, Dr. Ritchie. Folks can find me at Instagram.com/Elliot Morgan, 2 L's, 2 T's, or you can check me out on Rebel HQ, where I'm making videos all the time over there, most weeks. So please go enjoy. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you, my friend. Until next time. All right. Remember, take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. Take care of the planet. Remember, the truth is always indisputable.